Who is really marginalized?
Mr. Reagan.
All right, so I came upon an article, I think this morning. It says, American Express CRT, critical race theory training, urged staff to adopt a hierarchy, putting marginalized above privileged. Okay, now we all know that critical race theory is a bunch of racist garbage that says white people are evil oppressors and black people are innocent victims, and that, you know, we should all just bow to black people if we're white, and, you know, white people don't deserve anything because we have enjoyed decades and centuries of success and wealth, and black people have been, you know, made to suffer for centuries and millennia. When, of course, in reality, most white people were not raised rich, did not grow up in rich families. Most of us, our entire ancestry is full of peasants, farmers, coal miners, people like this. But forget all of that. No, every white person is privileged and every black person is oppressed, even Will Smith and Oprah and Barack Obama. Now, look, the thing is, some of you have been writing to me saying, you know, on Twitter and whatnot, where are you? Why haven't you been posting? Stuff like that. And the truth is, I took some time out in Hawaii to try to get a little bit better fit. And it's a bit difficult to post things when you're in Hawaii, especially when you have a really bad internet connection. And also, I was experimenting with filming some different kinds of things, and a lot of this stuff did not turn out. So there's actually several videos that I shot in Hawaii, which I will not be posting. There are a couple that I will be posting shortly. They're pretty poor quality, but I thought they were a good little rant video that I wanted to post. So there will be 2 of those that I will be posting in the near future. You know, those are going to be coming up. I'm not still in Hawaii, but it will look like I am when I post those videos. Anyway, I have a whole list of stuff I wanted to shoot and talk about recently. And I'm going to reshoot some stuff that I shot in Hawaii that didn't work out, so I'm going to reshoot some of that. But this pissed me off. This actually pissed me off. American Express and their CRT training, critical race theory training, genuinely annoyed the crap out of me. And the reason is because this headline, putting marginalized people above privileged. What they really mean is putting black people above white people. The subhead here says, they told white employees to avoid microaggressions like, we are all human beings. Apparently that is aggressive. If you say something, if you say we are all human beings, that's aggressive language. But that got me thinking, I was irritated by that because it begs the question, what the hell is a marginalized person? What the hell is a privileged person? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is poor people versus rich people. A poor person is marginalized. A rich person is privileged, right? Okay, and by that standard, if we're going to look at the world and the history of the world, then literally every American is privileged, okay? But if we're looking at it within the context of American culture, who is privileged and who is marginalized? Well, I can tell you this. Every single time Valeria and I have gone to any shop in Beverly Hills, and you can do this for yourself if you live in LA, or any city with, you know, like New York, any city with a large black population, in Las Vegas as well. Go to a Gucci. Go to a Gucci. Go to a Prada. Hey, Valeria, what other stores are like high-end stores that you always see tons of black people in? Louis Vuitton. Go to a Louis Vuitton. It's like all black people. I don't know what it is about these high-end shops and, you know, black people with money, but it's just completely full of black people. Every single customer is black. It's really weird. I mean, we're kind of used to it now. It's pretty much just standard at this point. But when we first noticed this, like every time we would go to Beverly Hills and go into one of these nice shops, Valerie would like elbow me and point to a wealthy black person with like, you know, Gucci luggage or something and say Louis Vuitton luggage on a Gucci belt or something, and go, look, Chris, look. Oppression. Yeah, and it was funny because there is this, you know, there is this idea out there that is perpetuated by CNN, MSNBC, the mainstream media, New York Times, places like this, that American Express is perpetuating this myth that black people are oppressed in America, and it's just not true. Are some black people poor? Oh, absolutely. Are some white people poor? Absolutely. Are some white people rich? Of course. Are some black people rich? Yes. Many black people are rich. Many black people are very well off. But there's still this weird perpetuating, and if you look at the number of people who live in poverty in America, the number of white people massively outnumber the number of black people, right? But we still have this idiotic idea that, you know, all black people are poor and all white people are rich. Well, it's not an idea that anyone actually believes in real life, right? It's just this BS myth that's perpetuated by the media. Nobody actually thinks this. I mean, this is an insane thought. But, the idea, the myth is used as the fundamental idea behind this critical race theory. Every black person is marginalized and oppressed and needs to be elevated, and every white person is an oppressor and privileged and needs to be their opinions need to be more marginalized. We need to hurt white people in order to punish them for their privilege. It's absurd, and I'm going to read this article, and I'm going to be pissed off about it. So continue watching if you want to see Mr. Reagan pissed off. But before that, of course, I have to sell you something. Now, over the past 4 years, we seldom heard the word inflation. But last month, the inflation rate in the U.S. had the highest rise in 29 years. You heard that right, 29 years, 1992. Now, that's a problem for all of us with the price of food and gas and everything else going up. But it's terrible if you're planning on retiring soon. You need to put up an inflation dam to stop inflation from wiping out the value of your savings and your investment. And it's not too late. Noble Gold specializes in retirement planning and IRAs, so their team of experts, well, they're your first stop, and they make it incredibly easy to do so. Now, this month, they are offering a 1-ounce American Eagle solid silver proof coin with every IRA or 401k that you take out. And look at this box they give you. I mean, it's so nice. It's such a beautiful little thing, and then you get this little felt coin holder, and you open this beautiful thing up, and what do you got? Oh, yeah. This is honestly one of the best ones they've sent me. They've sent me several coins over the past couple of years to present to you guys, and I love this one. I love this one. Actually, Valeria is trying to buy a case for all the coins because she loves them as much as I do. We love these things. Beautiful. I love all kinds of American imagery. I love American history. So this kind of stuff, yeah, just a little touch of history sometimes, a little touch of Americana. I love it. So they're offering these solid silver proof coins with every IRA or 401k that's taken out. Now, not many people can relax when inflation is this high, but like thousands of others, with Noble Gold, you're going to be okay. Visit the website at noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. All right, let's have a look at this. Again, the title is American Express Critical Race Theory Training Urged Staff to Adopt a Hierarchy Putting Marginalized Black People Above Privileged White People. Subhead says, told white employees to avoid microaggressions like we are all human beings. How dare people say such vicious, racist things. Okay, so this says, American Express subjected its employees to a series of critical race theory training sessions that encourage staff to rank themselves on a hierarchy of privilege and apply that hierarchy to the workplace, with the more privileged employees deferring to staff from marginalized groups. So if you have something that you want to say, and a black guy has something he wants to say, it doesn't matter if your idea is awesome and the black idea is crap, black guy's idea is crap, you have to go, I'm so sorry. No, please. You speak. I'll shut up. You speak. Your position in the company has no bearing on this. It's everything to do with just race. What color is your skin? If you're white, you need to shut up and listen. And if you're black, please, you deserve the floor, really. According to internal documents reviewed by Christopher F. Rufo, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, and first reported in the New York Post, Amex executive created an internal anti-racism initiative. That's always a good... Whenever you hear anti-racism, you know it's just racist against white people, basically. After the death of George Floyd, subjecting employees to a training program based on critical race theory tenets, including intersectionality, which categorizes people as oppressors or oppressed based on racial, gender, sexual, or other identities. In the trainings, the outside consulting firm Paradigm urged Amex employees to consider their own intersectional identities, mapping their race, sexual orientation, body type, religion, disability status, age, gender, identity, and citizenship on an official company worksheet. Employees could then determine whether they have privileged or are members of a marginalized group. Whites, males, heterosexual people, Christians, able-bodied people, and citizens would presumably count as privileged. What's really interesting about this, well, here's what I think constitutes a marginalized person or an oppressed person and a person with privilege. Wealth, the wealthier you are, the more privileged you are. I think everybody more or less agrees with that. If you're working at American Express, the people that you interact with are all going to be making a somewhat similar salary to you. Now, you could have people that are making millions and then other people that are making hundreds of thousands, but you're all basically middle class, upper middle class, or above. I mean, there's going to be very few people that are like lower class working at American Express. You're not going to have, the people who clean the toilets in at the executive meetings, right? I mean, most of the time, if you get people into work groups that are discussing something at a meeting, they're all usually somewhere in the same ballpark of income. I don't think in terms of wealth, you're going to find a huge discrepancy amongst the people at a particular meeting at an American Express, corporate office. Now, the other thing that might make you marginalized or, oppressed versus having great privilege is, social status based, I think, on our more sort of animal instincts, right? How funny are you? How good looking are you? How cool are you? How charming are you? Right? And none of those things are on this list. They mapping their race, sexual orientation, body type, religion, disability status, age, gender identity, and citizenship. That has nothing to do about ugliness. There's body type, okay, so if you're fat, you're marginalized, and if you're fit, you're not. But what about really skinny girls? They're often ridiculed. What about really skinny guys? They're often ridiculed. That's probably not included in there. But I would say that really ugly people, I mean, it should say, are you ugly? That's what it should say, are you ugly? And if so, you should get some marginalization points. It should also say, do you have a great sense of humor? And if you say no, well, you're marginalized. I pity you. People probably don't like you very much. You're probably a bit sad inside. Therefore, you get marginalization points. Are you very charismatic? Would you be successful hosting a YouTube channel? If not, you're marginalized. That's so sad. That's so sad. You get marginalization points. They don't have any of those things. This is such a stupid. It's all about race, gender, whether you're gay or not. I mean, come on. Do we really think that gay people are oppressed in America? They make more money than everybody else. If you look at gay men as a category, they have higher income than average people. So obviously they're not doing, too bad. If you look at gender, they're always saying, oh, the wage gap, the wage gap, the wage gap. But if you ask a stewardess why she's not a pilot, she's not going to tell you, oh, it's because I'm oppressed. She's probably going to say something like, oh, I love the freedom to fly all over the world on these airplanes, and I don't have the responsibility of protecting the lives of hundreds of people that I'm flying around the world in these, massive jets. I don't have that responsibility. So that's great for me. I enjoy that luxury of not having the responsibility, but having the freedom to fly everywhere. And certainly they're not getting paid as much as the pilots, but that's your choice. If you're a stewardess, you made the choice to be a stewardess. You weren't told by the airline instructor, oh, I'm sorry, little girl, we don't hire women. We only hire big, strong men. Now go home and ask your husband if you can have some money to buy a nice jewelry or something like that. That's just not how the world works. We don't live in 1932 anymore. And even then, you had people like Amelia Earhart, flying around the world in her plane, being a badass, and everybody was impressed by her and loved her. I mean, feminism was, early feminism, which I don't know how much better that was than modern feminism, but it was a hell of a lot better than what we got now. And that was alive and well way back then. I mean, the idea that women can't be pilots or, women can't be engineers or women can't be scientists, I mean, it's an absurd idea. We don't have this kind of bigotry that they're pretending that we have here. And, the people who are really marginalized in our society are the ugly and the poor. So maybe put that on there. Are you ugly? Are you poor? That's it. And then if you say yes on either of those, well then, people maybe need to give you some oppression points. All right, so the article goes on. In another session, consultants instructed employees to change their behavior in the office based on their relative position in the intersectional hierarchy. According to Rufo, the session included a blue flowchart with specific rules for interacting with Black, female, and LGBT employees. It says if a member of a subordinate group are present, workers should practice intersectional allyship and defer to them before speaking. This is what I was talking about before. This is completely insane. I also have something to say. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that I was competing for attention with a Black person. Please, by all means, allow me to defer to the great wisdom of Black people, because clearly it's important that we hear more Black people say things because racism or something. I mean, it's just so unbelievably stupid. Look, this is not how the real world works. People jostle for attention, jostle for position. all the time. You're constantly trying to put your ideas forward, and the person with the best ideas should succeed. Now, it doesn't always work like that. I've worked at companies, I've had group activities in college and high school and whatnot, like we all have, and certainly sometimes the loudest person gets the most attention, and that's not always the person with the best ideas, and that's just the way the world works. And if anything, we should have, you know, some kind of training to shut up loud, annoying people with bad ideas. That's far more obnoxious than like a white guy talking more than a black guy or something like that. But like, you know, the obnoxious people whose ideas are better received just because they're more enthusiastic or they speak more loudly. They're not necessarily white, they're not necessarily black, they're not necessarily male or female. You get annoying people of every race, gender, sexual preference, all that kind of stuff. Every type of person, there's annoying people and there's wise people and there's smart people and there's quiet people and there's loud people. You get that with every kind of group, with every kind of race. The real world is messy. People, it's never going to work like this. I mean, it's never going to work that white people go, oh, we're just going to be quiet and let the black person speak because you're black and you're oppressed and racism. I was just so stupid. This is also unbelievably stupid. All right, it goes on. Rufo cited another handout which instructed white employees to identify their privileges or advantages that you have and not to speak over members of the black and African community. So again, it's sort of reinforcing this idea. Black people get to talk and white people do not. And to analyze their speech and actions based on their impact on others, not their intent. So like if you say something and you're intending it to be perfectly neutral and normal and fine, that doesn't mean it's perfectly neutral and normal and fine. It's only perfectly neutral, normal, and fine if somebody perceives it that way. If they perceive it as harmful, then you're being harmful. It's not about your intent, they say. It's about the impact you have on your colleague. So if I say, oh, the clouds look beautiful today, and the black person says, but those clouds are white, that's offensive. Well, then I've been offensive. If I tell this girl, well, that's a beautiful shirt that you've worn today, and if she takes that as me referencing her breasts or something like that, well, that's sexual harassment, and I have to go to, I got to lose my job and all that kind of good stuff. I mean, and that's a good point, really, because I was thinking about, like, why is it that American Express would bring in these people to have this stupid critical race theory training? And I have a kind of love-hate perspective on corporations, the concept of the corporation. Because while I think corporations offer amazing services and products at a very low cost because of the massive infrastructure that a corporation is able to have, you know, they've become incredibly woke in recent years and thus very destructive to our society. They just are very, very powerful, and when you get the wrong people in there, they become very destructive. Allow me to explain why I like the corporation, because a lot of you are going to be like, corporations? I don't understand why you would love corporations. McDonald's, right? Imagine trying to make a hamburger from scratch, and I don't mean you buy flour at the store, you buy eggs and all that kind of stuff. What I mean is you buy a plot of land, you have a cow, you butcher the cow, you grind up the meat, but before you did that, you had to milk the cow so you get the cheese and the butter. You grow your own grain so that you can mill your own flour. You know, you get the lard from the cow, or you press some other kind of vegetation so that you get some kind of oil. Maybe you grow an olive tree so you get some olive oil there. You do all this kind of stuff. You know, you have to get eggs from the chicken so you can make your own mayonnaise. You grow your own tomatoes. I don't even know how you make vinegar. I assume that, yeah, there's some kind of process of, like, yeah, I don't know how to make vinegar, but you somehow figure out how to make vinegar. You make ketchup out of that. You grow your own mustard seeds, grind those up, make your own mustard. All of that would cost thousands, if not millions of dollars just for the land alone, then years of labor to produce one hamburger. Obviously, the average person cannot make a hamburger from scratch. It's financially untenable. It would take an unbelievable amount of time. But McDonald's can do all this because of their infrastructure, because of the infrastructure we have in Western civilization, this great society that we've created. And they can provide you with one of those hamburgers for like $1. You give them $1, they give you a hamburger, you eat it, and you're happy. And you didn't have to do any of that work. You didn't have to mill anything. You didn't have to raise a cow. You didn't have to buy land. You didn't have to do any of that stuff. McDonald's did all that for you and then offered you a hamburger for $1, however much they cost. Amazing. Just amazing, right? The concept, the idea of what we have created in Western civilization, from the concept of capitalism, the concept of, you know, representative democracy, all of the amazing infrastructure that we've developed, all the beautiful technologies that we've created, It is astonishing what we are able to provide each other, just the amazing luxuries that we have now, the common man has access to for very little cost. And a lot of what facilitates that are corporations, right? So corporations are amazing in that sense, but you know, this video would not get to you without YouTube. The amazing technology of YouTube, the ability to distribute videos to the world that you can watch at just the click of a button when you're bored, just on your phone, just swiping. Oh, maybe I like that, maybe I don't like that, right? We are so lucky. I mean, we have there has never been a time in the history of man in which we live in such ridiculous luxury. And like I said, a lot of that is facilitated by these corporations. But the problem is these corporations have been infiltrated by woke, insane people. Now, how did that happen? Now, my guess is that, like, you know, in the 90s, I remember there was all these ideas about, you know, harassment in the workplace and all this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of company executives thought, well, we don't want to get sued, so let's bring in some of these leftists who can tell us what's offensive and what isn't. We'll have them have a vice president position or something like that, and then they can just basically watch over everything and make sure it's all kosher so that, you know, we don't get sued and our company stays good. And they started bringing more and more of those people into executive positions just to make sure that everything was super sanitized, right? And so now you can't say, I like your shirt. Oh, your shirt looks, you know, that's a really good looking shirt. You're pretty, you look pretty sexy today, right? I can't say that. That's sexual harassment. I mean, I can say it because it's just my wife here, but you know, if you're in a corporation, you can't say that to a woman. You know, you probably get fired. So we sanitized that, but we sanitized everything. You can't make a black joke to your black colleague because he could go complain to HR and then you're fired. Like I said, life is messy, life is dirty, life isn't perfect, and you shouldn't sanitize corporations any more than you sanitize the rest of life. Life should be a little bit of a tussle. People should have disagreements. People shouldn't, you know, be able to just live in a total bubble. You know, we shouldn't have these HR departments that scold people, and we shouldn't be able to, you know, sue a corporation just because somebody made a bad joke you didn't like. But that's the world that we've devolved into. It's terrible, and so now all these corporations are run by these leftist lunatics. Anyway, that's my theory about how it happened. You guys may disagree, but I think that's how all these leftists got in these positions of power because, you know, people were worried about getting sued and stuff like that. Also, it is like a very trendy thing. It was a very trendy thing in the 90s. It's a very trendy thing today to be a leftist. Like, everybody in Hollywood is a leftist. Like, if you're not a leftist, you're not cool. There's this ridiculous idea that if you are, you know, Democrats have branded themselves very well, and they branded Republicans for us, which didn't do us any favors. You know, Republicans have always been branded, since I've been alive, as racists. And Democrats have branded themselves as the pure anti-racists. So if you want to be perceived as anti-racist, you know, it's in your benefit to say you're a Democrat, right? And, you know, all these Democrats are going along with the craziest ideas in the world right now because they get to call themselves a Democrat. And this is incredibly dangerous. I get to call myself a Democrat so people won't think I'm racist, but then I have to go along with the Green New Deal and critical race theory. It's like, okay, whatever I have to do to not be called a racist. This is the action of a coward. Anyone who's a Democrat right now, voting Democrat, is either a coward or a lunatic. Let's get back to the article and finish this off. The training sessions also warned white employees to avoid certain phrases as microaggressions. Forbidden phrases include, I don't see color. We are all, what if you're colorblind? we are all human beings. Oh, how terrible. And everyone can succeed in this society if they work hard enough. Wow. Yeah, that's definitely not true because, you know, it doesn't matter how hard you work. If you're black, there's no way you can succeed. It's not possible. Rufo noted a high-profile anti-racism event in which Amex executives invited Khalil Muhammad, the great-grandson of Nation of Islam founder Elijah Muhammad, to speak on race in corporate America. That's insane. He argued that capitalism was founded on racism and that racist logics and forms of domination have shaped Western society since at least the Industrial Revolution. What a racist dick. American Express has to do its own digging about how it sits in relationship to its history of racial capitalism. I mean, this is just so typical leftist mumbo-jumbo. Muhammad said, you are complicit in giving privileges in one community against the other. In one community against the other? Okay. Under the pretext that we live in a meritocratic system. Meritocratic. Nice big fancy word there. I say this all the time, but I'm going to say it again. Leftists like to use esoteric language that most people don't understand in order to confuse people to make people think that they're smart. If I can say something that you don't understand, you're just going to accept that what I'm saying must be right and that I'm smarter than you. That's a terrible way of communicating. What you need to do is use clear words that clearly express what you're trying to say to people so that everybody understands you. If people just think you're smart and are agreeing with you because they think you're smart, you're just a con man. You're just a liar. You're an unintelligent person pretending to be somebody smart. If you listen to somebody that use all kinds of esoteric language that you don't understand, you shouldn't automatically respect them. In fact, you should be suspicious that in fact what they're saying is absolute bullcrap, right? Unless, of course, they're scientists and they're talking to an audience of other scientists, then, or something like that, right? Obviously, they're going to use esoteric language in that instance. So this guy, Muhammad, argued that the credit card company should reduce standards for black customers and sacrifice profits in the interest of race-based reparations. He said, if American Express cares about racial justice in the world, it can't simply say that the market is going to define how we price certain customers who happen to come from low-income communities. He said, if you want to do good, then you're going to have to set up products and product lines that don't maximize profit. So yeah, so so this guy's basically saying, give black people better deals than white people. The left has become very blatantly racist. I mean, blatantly racist. It's pretty unbelievable, actually. Let's see here. Amex's anti-racism initiative. Anytime you see anti-racism, by the way, what does that mean? That means racism. Like, if you read anti-racism, it just means racism against white people. That's all that means. Anti-Racism Initiative training module recommends a series of resources for employees to learn about covert white supremacy. Covert white supremacy. White supremacy that you can't actually see, but trust us, it's there. That's unbelievable. It doesn't matter. No matter how long the earth exists, no longer how long there's white people, no matter how not racist white people seem, they're always going to be covertly racist. It's always going to be covert white supremacy. Just know that. Just always hate white people. And that was, of course, quoting Ibram Kendi, hugely famous racist black person. Dedicate yourselves to the lifelong task of overcoming our country's racist heritage. Yeah, I will not be dedicating myself to that lifelong task for any amount of time whatsoever. You know, a lot of people should be dedicating their lives to eradicating the racism from black people against white people, because that is the real problem of racism that we have in America right now. Also, a lot of black people hate Asians and beat them up. There's a lot of video about that has been released lately, although Democrats are insisting that it is white supremacists somehow. The article goes on, in October 2020, Amex announced a $1 billion action plan to increase diversity, invest in more minority-owned businesses, and donate to nonprofits that promote social justice. American Express, stop being a bitch. All right, just stop being a little bitch and going, okay, leftist, what's the nonprofit you want me to donate to? What do we need to tell black people we're not racist? How do we do it? We can donate $1 billion and they won't think we're racist. Let's do that. No, stop wasting your money. Nobody's going to stop thinking you're racist if you donate money to black people. Stop just giving money to I mean, okay, here's an idea. Just don't be racist. All right? Just don't be racist. The people at your company, just don't be racist, right? And I'm pretty sure most people at American Express are probably not racist, okay? I mean, I've been all over the country. I've met lots of different white people. None of them were racist, okay? I've met some racist black people, but that's it, all right? Just hire not racist people, and then you don't have to give up $1 billion. Look, it doesn't matter what people think of you. Leftists are never going to give you a break. It doesn't matter how much. You could give $100 billion. They're going to still be like, well, but you still are part of the system. You're part of the system of white supremacy, you know. It's all BS, man. It's all a lie. American Express, stop wasting your money. Not that I care that much about credit card companies, but honestly, I mean, how stupid. Justin Danhoff, an executive vice president at the National Center for Public Policy Research and an American Express shareholder, expressed outrage. Yeah, your shareholders are going to get pissed if you keep spending $1 billion of the company's money on moronic things like making black people think you're not racist, which they never will stop thinking you're racist. Not all black people, of course, obviously just the ones like Ibram Kendi who are totally racist against white people. Let's see here. Outraged at the CRT trainings, which he described as blatantly racist. Yeah, of course. Of course, critical race theory is blatantly racist. Thank you, Justin Danhoff. That is absolutely right. He says, as an American Express shareholder, this is deeply disturbing. Critical race theory trainings, such as the ones American Express subjected its employees to, are blatantly racist, full stop. Thank you very much. That's absolutely true. Furthermore, the fact that they paid an outside firm with shareholder money, mind you, to come and conduct seminars that divided American staffers by race, gender, and who they prefer as sexual partners is insane, the shareholder added. Yes, I agree with that too. The company's management must explain how spending scarce resources to divide its staff along racial lines, potentially creating a hostile work environment, possibly increases shareholder value. Yeah, that's right, because you have a duty to your shareholders to make money. not to appease the woke masses, you dorks. Dorks, that's a word that people don't use enough anymore. I'm going to try to bring that back. You dorks. All right. Furthermore, to invite a speaker like Khalil Muhammad to rail against American capitalism just shows how much socialist and even Marxist thought now permeates American businesses. Yeah, which is also completely insane. Danhoff countered some of Muhammad's arguments against capitalism. He says, American capitalism is the greatest engine for human prosperity ever created by man. Oh, I love this guy. But all this woke nonsense is a cancer. Let's hope we still have time to kill the cancer of woke before it takes down its host, he said. American Express did not respond to Fox News' request for comment. Man, who is this guy? Justin Danhoff? Justin Danhoff, I like you. You are a cool dude, man. It's hard not to love everything you wrote or everything that you stated there. That is, what you said is perfect. That is perfect. Critical race theory, leave it behind. Corporations need to somehow untangle themselves from this leftist craziness. I think there needs to be an overhaul. If I had any kind of influence in any of these corporations, I would definitely work out a way to overhaul the company, get rid of all the leftist crazies, and put in rational, normal Americans. I would figure out a way, or they don't have to be Americans even if it's an international company, but I would work out a way to have some kind of a test to indicate whether somebody was an activist or not. You do not want activists working at your company. And that needs to happen because these companies are, you know, you get woke, you go broke, but also it devolves the society. You know, we used to be a society in which we said, you know, what matters is the content of the character. Now we're saying content of character doesn't matter. What matters is the color of your skin. And that is twisted. That's sick. We're going backwards. We're not progressing forward. They call themselves progressives, but they're regressing, you know. God, we were making so much progress in the 80s and 90s and they screwed it all up. You know, they're dividing us by race, and then they're saying this race needs to apologize to this race and this race needs to be quiet while this race speaks, and it's just like, God, shut up, you guys. What you need to do is you need to say, whoever has the best ideas, you speak. You know, you guys can fight it out amongst yourselves. You know, life's rough. If you're black, if you're white, if you're green, if you're a woman, if you're a man, if you like men, if you like women, if you like, you know, sheetrock. I don't know. I just saw sheetrock on the wall. I don't know. Whatever, your sexual preference, none of that stuff matters. What matters is how good are you for the company? You know, how well can you interact with your fellow employees? How smart are you? What are the best ideas that you have? You know, how dedicated are you? How hardworking are you? These are the things, right? These are the things that matter to a corporation, to a company. These are the things that should matter. I mean, the left is just completely gone mental. I don't know how you can be a leftist anymore. I mean, I don't know how leftists wake up in the morning and go, you know who's awesome? Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. Those are the people. Those are the people I want to be more like. You know, it's a great idea. You know, it's a great idea. If we tell white people to stop talking because black people need to have a greater presence, they need to have the floor for a few years. You know, look, just respect people as individuals. It's that simple. Okay, that should be your policy in every corporation. That's it. Respect people as individuals. If you don't, if you're a bit of a dick, we're probably gonna hire somebody else. We're gonna fire you, and it doesn't matter if you're black, white, red, or whatever you are. I think the concept of common sense is being eroded in our society because you've got these spoiled millennials who are being taught all of this crazy stuff, and they're just not. I mean, kids need to do yard work. You know, they need to learn to fix engines. They, you know, yeah, that stuff isn't necessary anymore. But you should still teach your kids to do it. You know, teach your kids how to hunt. Teach your kids how to fight. Teach your kids how to be tough people and not these like woke little monsters, because we're raising a generation of degenerates. Yeah, my Aston agrees. All right, guys, that's it for me. Just remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant, it's just that they know so much that is not so. Good night.
This is the specter our well-meaning liberal friends refuse to face, that their policy of accommodation is appeasement. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, therein lies the road to war. You and I know and do not believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery.